Not all enemies in The Last of Us Part 2 are created equal. Some will make your heart race, others just get in the way. From terrifying infected to deadly human threats, I'm ranking every major enemy from worst to best. Let's see if your favorite makes it to the top. Number 10. Dogs. Dogs in the game bring a new gameplay idea. They can track your scent. This means you have to keep moving and change your stealth strategy often. It adds pressure, but the main impact of dogs is emotional. When you kill them and hear their whimpering, it feels really sad and can make you feel guilty. But when it comes to gameplay, dogs don't offer much variety. Their attacks are simple and become repetitive very quickly. Once they see you, they just rush straight at you, and it always feels the same. Yes, they do make the game a bit harder, but not in a fun way. Many times they just feel annoying. You might have to replay certain parts over and over because of them, and that gets frustrating. Overall, the idea of dogs is interesting, and they create a few emotional moments, but as enemies, they're not very deep or enjoyable. Number 9. Runners. Runners are the first stage of infected, turning just 1 to 2 days after being exposed. They are fast and aggressive, but also clumsy and easy to predict. Their movements are simple enough that you can take out a lot of them calmly. As you go further into the game, they become easier to deal with, which makes them feel less important and more like background enemies. The only time they can really be a threat is when a large group attacks suddenly. This can be annoying, especially early in the game or when you're low on ammo. Also, runners still look and sound a bit human. Sometimes they cry or moan like they're in pain, which shows that a part of their human side might still be alive. This is an interesting detail that makes this enemy feel less one-dimensional and more memorable. Number 8. WLF soldiers, Wolves. The WLF, also known as the Wolves, are a militarized faction that use flanking tactics, cover systems, and suppressing fire to overwhelm the player. When I first heard about them in the game, I honestly expected more. I thought they'd be a real challenge. After all, they're supposed to be a well-trained militia. But in reality, they're arguably the simplest and most straightforward human faction in the game. You'll understand why I say that once I start comparing them to the other enemy groups later in this video. The depth and variety of the others just make the Wolves feel a bit underwhelming in hindsight. The one unique gameplay mechanic they bring to the table is the use of dogs. Unlike other factions, the WLF deploy trained dogs that can track your scent trail, which forces you to stay on the move constantly. It adds tension for sure, but aside from that, there's not much that sets them apart in terms of gameplay variety. And when you're fighting them over and over in similar looking environments, it starts to feel more like repetition than intensity. They're not bad enemies, but in a game full of dynamic and disturbing encounters, the Wolves just don't leave a lasting impression. Number 7. Rattlers. The Rattlers are a violent group of slavers introduced late in the game. What puts them above WLF soldiers in this list is the addition of unique mechanics and the fact that they're more well equipped as a faction. For example, they wear helmets that prevent you from killing them with a single pistol headshot, forcing you to land multiple shots instead. If you look closely, you'll notice that every single member of this group wears body armor, and when it comes to gear, they're definitely not lacking. One of the most interesting mechanics tied to the Rattlers is how they use infected as guard dogs or even as traps. This dynamic creates a fun opportunity where you can actually turn the infected against them, adding some creative variety to the gameplay. But even with all of that, they appear so late in the story that they don't leave a strong or lasting impression on the player. Number 6. Stalkers. Stalkers are one of the creepiest enemy types in the game, and their name says it all. Literally, stalker means someone who follows or hunts another from the shadows, and that's exactly what these infected do. Stalkers sit between runners and clickers, fast like the former but stealthy like the latter. They typically form about 1 to 2 weeks after infection. At this point, the cordyceps has started to break through the host's body, but they haven't fully lost their human features yet. They often hide behind walls and attack from ambush, making them unpredictable. They create genuinely tense moments, especially in dark enclosed spaces. Unlike runners who are extremely predictable and rush at you with no real strategy, stalkers are way more cunning and deliberate. They hide in the shadows, wait for the perfect moment, and then strike when your guard is down. That kind of intelligence, or at least the illusion of it, makes them far more interesting to fight than runners. There's something about their sneakiness that keeps you on edge and makes every encounter feel personal and dangerous. Clickers. Clickers get their name from the distinct clicking sounds they make while navigating the environment. Clickers emerge roughly 2 to 3 weeks after infection. By this point, the cordyceps fungus has fully taken over the host's brain and head, resulting in complete blindness and the development of echolocation abilities. Clickers are an iconic part of the franchise, using echolocation to find their prey. If you want more details on how clickers use echolocation, and how that mechanic was brilliantly inspired by real-life bats, I highly recommend checking out my top 10 The Last of Us Secrets video for this game. It's in the playlist, and I break it all down there. They kill instantly upon contact unless you have a shiv or melee weapon in your hands. The way they use echolocation and their creepy sounds makes them really interesting. The detail put into how they make those noises and their name makes them fit perfectly in the ranking of enemies. Number 4. Shamblers. Shamblers weren't even in the first game, and I've got to say I'm so excited they were added in the sequel. It was such a great move by the developers to introduce these horrifying enemies. Shamblers get their name from the slow, staggering way they move, almost like they're dragging their infected bodies along the ground. In environments with high moisture and water, the cordyceps fungus overpowers their body, causing them to become bloated and surrounded by explosive spores. Shamblers are known for their ability to release a cloud of toxic spores when they get close, making them particularly dangerous in tight, damp spaces. Unlike clickers, shamblers don't kill instantly, but their spore explosions can seriously weaken you. The way they move and their deadly spore attacks make them unique and frightening, fitting perfectly in the game's enemy lineup. Number 3. Seraphites, Scars. Seraphites, also known as Scars, are a religious cult that focuses on stealth, ambush tactics, and brutal melee combat. One of the most unique things about them is their use of a whistling language to communicate. This eerie system of signals not only makes them stand out from other human factions, but also adds a layer of tension to every encounter. Within their ranks, they also have larger, more muscular members known as brutes. These enemies can take a lot more damage and require far more bullets to bring down, and interestingly, brutes are exclusive to this faction. Beyond gameplay, the lore behind the Seraphites is surprisingly deep and detailed. In fact, I'd argue the writers put more effort into their backstory than any other faction. I covered part of their lore in my top 10 The Last of Us Part 2 Secrets video, so I won't go into all the details here, but it's definitely worth checking out. For example, the reason why all the men shave their heads, the women have a single hairstyle, and why the Scars are so obsessed with cutting open their enemies' stomachs, yeah. All of that actually has an explanation in the game's lore, which I break down fully in that video. All these reasons make this enemy faction incredibly deep and high quality, earning its spot at the top of our S tier list. 2. Bloaters. Before diving into this enemy, it's worth checking out this interview with the cast of the series.
I think if I were to be an infected in The Last of Us, I think I'd probably want to be a bloater.
I'd be a bloater. A bloater.
I think the bloaters are kind of like...
This interview really emphasizes just how fascinating the bloaters are, to the point where the entire cast wishes they could play as these infected. Bloaters are late-stage infected, massive, armored, and incredibly deadly. Their bodies are heavily covered in multiple layers of cordyceps fungus, which makes them almost invulnerable, turning their skin into a tough, impenetrable armor. The name bloater comes from the fact that their bodies become heavily swollen or bloated as the fungus completely overtakes them. They can throw deadly spore bombs and can take a huge amount of damage before finally going down. These enemies are the perfect example of survival horror, deserving their spot at the top of the S tier list. Number 1. The Rat King. What makes the Rat King unique is that it's not just one enemy, but several infected fused together into a single horrifying creature. This grotesque fusion of bodies makes it significantly larger than any other infected we've seen, and that enormous size alone makes it feel like an unstoppable monster in the eyes of the player. But what really adds to its impact is that despite being this huge hulking beast, it's still incredibly fast. It can suddenly charge at you through the narrow, decaying hallways of the hospital, keeping you constantly on edge and with no room to breathe. It also releases a cloud of spores that can disorient the player, giving it even more control over the battlefield. Add to that the fact that the Rat King can literally split apart, sending a stalker-like infected after you mid-fight, and that just makes the challenge even more intense. This entire boss battle takes place in a dark, claustrophobic environment, which only amplifies the fear and tension. You're constantly being pushed to move, to reload, to rethink your strategy. Every second counts. Honestly, I don't think there's a single player out there who would argue against the Rat King being ranked number 1. Its design, behavior, and atmosphere all come together to create a moment in gaming that's unforgettable and absolutely worthy of the top spot. That's it for today's ranking. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.